السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، ويا أهلا وسهلا بكم في الجلسة الثالثة لليوم الأول من قمة المعرفة. Welcome back. توظيف المعرفة لتحسين الرعاية الصحية هو محور الجلسة الثالثة التي يستضيف فيها العميد الطبيب الاستشاري الدكتور علي سنجل مدير المركز الصحي لشرطة دبي، كلا من الدكتور زياد سنكري مؤسس كارديو دياغنوستكس، والدكتور ريم عثمان المدير التنفيذي لمجموعة مستشفيات السعودي الألماني في الإمارات، وكونر مكارثي مدير تطوير الأعمال الدولية لبابل للرعاية الصحية. فليتفضلوا إلى المنصة في هذه الجلسة مشكورين.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thanks for the introduction. So as you see now, this session is going to be in English, and it's particularly, we're going to concentrate on knowledge and healthcare. Well, basically, before getting into healthcare, I've decided to find a proper definition of knowledge. So I've come across three different definitions. So I'll just mention them to you. So definition one says facts, information and skills acquired through experience or education, the theoretical or practical understanding of a subject. Number two, this was the first definition. A second definition which I found was understanding of or information about a subject that you get by experience or study, either known by one person or people generally. The final one was understanding of or information about a subject that you get by experience study, either known by one person or by people generally. So, healthcare. All of you agree that time is changing. Science is coming up with new concepts. We may need new tools or maybe new practice. This is what I was discussing about. Will we lose our doctors? Will we lose our nurses? Will we get into a hospital with machines? Will a lay person get into a hospital to meet up with a machine? So those are big challenges in our health sector. So in life, there are facts and variables. There are certain facts that we need to believe in, and there are certain things or knowledges keep changing based on experience and based on studies. So it's the time for health professionals. We need to come together. We need to build up a proper knowledge. So all of us need to come around a common vision with proper knowledge for healthcare, so that right knowledge and evidence is used at the right time in the right place. I've got three guests, honored guests, and we were supposed, initially they told us that Professor Majdi Yaqub is going to be with us, but I think he's going to have his a separate session. But still, we have super guests here in front of us that we need to talk to them. But initially, or at the beginning, we've got a gentleman from London, I think originally from Ireland. This is where I studied and where I got my education from. So I think all of you couldn't get his bio, but I asked him to send me his bio right now. So I need to read his bio. I need to get it from my personal email. So basically, Conor McCarthy, because he's got something to talk about. We'll give him a few minutes just to talk about. So Conor is head of partnership for the GCC at Babylon. He joined Babylon as one of its first employee, which has now scaled to over 1,000 people in 4 years with global offices in New York, Austin, Vancouver, Kigali, Kuala Lumpur, as well as London in the UK. With a deep knowledge of global healthcare markets, Conor leads Babylon new market development with focus on Europe and Middle East. Conor's role at Babylon is to establish partnerships with governments, healthcare providers, large tech, enterprises and insurers worldwide to help expand Babylon global footprint. Shall I continue? It's fine. Okay then, the floor is yours now, Connor, if you'd like to give us some information about your field, please.
Thank you, Doctor. If you could please put up a slide, that would be great. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here today, representing, I think, a new breed of technology in healthcare, and I'm excited to sort of tell you a little bit about what we're doing at Babylon. And that is, I guess, to sort of give you a bit of background about myself. I started off with Babylon about 4 years ago. And I remember when I first met our founder, he said to me before I joined, he said, you know, I was sort of trying to figure out what is Babylon, what are you trying to do? And he said to me that Babylon is trying to do with healthcare what Google have done with information. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. And if you think about it, Google have completely democratized access to information. So when he sort of put it like that, and he said, effectively what Babylon is trying to do is democratize healthcare globally for everyone. So I joined pretty much based on that statement alone. I was employee number 20. We've now scaled to over 1,000 employees across multiple territories, helping us achieve our mission. And that mission is behind me, and it is to how can we put an accessible and an affordable healthcare service into the hands of everyone on Earth? Simple mission. Maybe not simple, but clear at least. And you know, we have when you think about it, the world's 50% of the world's population is without basic access to healthcare. In remote areas of developing countries, you know, your chances of getting accurately diagnosed are about 3 in 10. So that means about 7 of 10 people in those areas are not getting accurate diagnoses. So in developed countries, obviously accessibility is not of the same problem, but that accessibility comes at a high cost of percentage of GDP, and that's spiraling all the time. So the accessibility is becoming less affordable for governments and for countries globally. So, you know, our view is that as long as we can put most of the healthcare that most people need into the devices that most people already carry, then that makes it highly accessible. Of course, the cost of doctors, whether they're sitting behind a phone or whether they're sitting in your surgery, is pretty much the same. So there's no affordability, or there's no accessibility, there's no affordability without accessibility, is what I'm trying to say. And Babylon's view is that the costs in healthcare, and I'm sure my colleagues might dispute some of this, but a lot of the costs in healthcare, hopefully some of you will agree, is that sit in 2 buckets. The first being in people, so effectively salaries. So 2/3 of all health expenditure in the NHS goes on salaries. And secondly, timing. So what I mean by that is, what if we could start catching most healthcare diseases or issues when they're, you know, before they become a $100 solution coming from a $10 problem. So everything we do at Babylon is about creating fundamental technologies to address these 2 problems. So how can we change what a doctor is doing, for instance, wasting their time on administration, things that they're maybe not necessarily good at, and perhaps wasting a lot of their time on. And also then, how can we predict as quickly as possible people's healthcare issues before they arise?
Can I throw a question there, please,
sure.
Connor? Now, will that affect curriculums at medical colleges or schools? I mean, as a doctor, I need to change my practice because I need to get used to those technology. So whatever I was taught and whatever I was told when I approach my patients, I think things need to change. So rather than approaching people in practice, I think we need to go back a little bit to medical schools and approach them.
Sure, I think you're absolutely right, Doctor. I think one thing that we've seen, and we've built a knowledge base, and I can talk a bit about what our knowledge base is. It's effectively a part of our sort of AI brain, and that is designed to replicate all of the knowledge that a doctor has. So everything that you've learned at medical school, all of the journals that you read at weekends, all of that medical knowledge that you consume. Of course, we can do that with AI and computationally with far more pools of data. So we can create vastly more sort of knowledge.
Because we are, it's a transitional state, because what's happening now, you've got old school and you've got new school coming up, or new practice and old practice. At the same time, you've got lots of doctors or professionals, they are anti-technology. They're against it. So even, for example, we try to come up at the police, we've got a model in Dubai Police headquarters. We try to come up with an AI concept clinic with no doctors, no nurses. You just get into the room, speak to the room, get the services. So whatever goes there, so you get the room calling the specific person, grabbing him into the room. So, but we had lots of people disagreeing the concept. They said medicine should be medicine. I should get into an office, meet up with the doctor and speak to him. I need somebody to come up, measure my blood pressure, I need to talk to. So they feel safe when they talk to people. So how do you overcome this problem?
Sure, and I think maybe we'll get into that in a bit more detail. I think from our perspective, we're not trying to replace that aspect of medicine. A machine will never be able to put its hand on your shoulder and say, it's okay, I'm here to look after you. Trust me. I think that's the reality. So doctors, but saying that, I'm not just saying that doctors will only be there for empathy and for, there are far more things that doctors should be focusing on. I think there are a lot of things that AI can take care of that doctors needn't waste their time on. And one of those things that we've sort of discovered is actually around the sort of diagnostic capability. And there are a number of reasons around that, but purely because of computational ability, the ability for computers and machines to sort of figure out probabilities and analyze large data sets far greater than a doctor could ever do, gives them the ability to do at least some part of what doctors currently do in a very accurate way. If I can just finish on, I just want to show you something briefly,
sure,
which is sort of what we do today, and that is basically by providing sort of every aspect of primary care. And that's from pretty much flipping the physical model of care on its head. So if you think about, instead of going straight to your doctor, what if we could provide a digital-first service that's AI-driven, so you've got a chatbot, you check symptoms, it gives you information about potential diseases, and then what you should do next. If you need to speak to a doctor, we'll then connect you with one remotely, and then obviously, of course, for the 20% of people, or 10 to 20% of people that need to see someone physically, then we'll pass them through into those services. So what I'd like to do is just sort of show you something very quickly. It's just 2 minutes. And this is, I don't know if you're familiar with, hopefully you're familiar, most of you, with Alexa, Amazon's Alexa. I think if you can sort of reimagine the way that we could deliver healthcare in tomorrow's world, the youth of today, I don't know if they're going to want to necessarily speak to a doctor, but they may want to speak to Alexa. So what we've done here is built a capability to show you how we can sort of, how we can integrate that into Alexa. So basically Alexa as a doctor, and behind this we sort of show you how the brain works and the sort of knowledge, the interactions between symptoms, risk factors and diseases.
Hi Alexa, I want to speak to Babylon.
Hello Louise, how can I help you?
Well, I've been feeling a bit dizzy recently.
I'm sorry to hear that. Can you tell me a bit more? Do you feel like the room is spinning, or are you feeling faint?
Yeah, sometimes it feels like the room's spinning.
And have you noticed any hearing loss?
Yeah, I have actually.
Do you have a ringing, buzzing, or humming sound in one or both ears?
Yeah, both ears. It's horrible.
Do you have any pain in your ears?
No.
Have you had a fever?
No, none.
Have you noticed any discharge coming out of your ears?
No.
Looking at your user graph, I can see you had glandular fever a few months ago.
Oh yeah, that was awful.
For how long have you been unwell with these symptoms now?
A couple of months.
Finally, have you noticed that your ears are feeling full or blocked?
Yes, actually.
I think I might know what's been causing your symptoms. It is most likely to be Meniere's disease, a condition of the inner ear that can affect balance and hearing. It could also be labyrinthitis, an infection of the nerve in the ear. Meniere's disease needs a specialist opinion and might be helped with some medicine to reduce the dizziness, so I'd recommend talking to one of our GPs.
Sure, sounds good.
Dr. Garcha is available straight away, and according to your calendar, so are you. Would you like me to book your appointment?
Yes, please.
All booked. Your phone will ring in just a minute when the appointment starts.
So hopefully we've then sort of, I don't want to call it a diagnosis, because right now we have to, what we're doing is providing the most, the probability, the most likely probability.
It's more into differential diagnosis.
Exactly, it's a differential. And based on this, of course, if you need to speak to a doctor, then we can transfer you straight into that path. But the way we've sort of built it is, and just to finish on this slide, is to sort of mimic what a doctor's brain might look like. And if you think about all of the aspects of, I guess, a human brain, we've developed, I suppose, a set of AI or artificially intelligent capabilities that allow us to sort of do a lot of the things that a doctor can do. Now, the first of those is a knowledge base, which is basically a vast pool of knowledge. As I said earlier, a lot of the things that you learn in medical school, journals, but updating this all the time with the latest research, et cetera, et cetera. So we've built this. We think it's one of the biggest in the world. There's 530 million medical statements in that knowledge base. And if you think about what a doctor's brain, I think, can actually right now sort of process, that's about 100 times greater. Okay. So it enables us to do an awful lot more, then combine it with things like knowing more about you as a user. We can then start diagnosing you or predicting, potentially simulating your risk before you even sort of get to that point.
Thank you very much. So now I need to get in with Dr. Reem Uthman. So it's a big challenge, doctor, because you, let me introduce you first, because you've got great challenge. At some stage, you may get rid of your doctors at the hospital. But let me introduce you first. So we've got our great lady, Dr. Reem Uthman. Dr. Uthman's leadership, she's in charge of Saudi German Hospital, Dubai. The hospital became a key player in the Middle East healthcare industry and has received various awards, cementing its advanced position amongst its peers. So Dr. Reem's leadership and role is both female empowerment and healthcare management, has been acknowledged by prestigious forums, leading to several awards, including Forbes Middle East, 200 Most Powerful Arab Women in 2014, Feinbaum Leadership Award by Hamdan bin Mohammed Smart University in 2015, Emirates Women Award 2015, Best Female CEO Award, and 15th Top Most Influential People in the United Arab Emirates by Arabian Business in 2017. Reem was Ambassador of Humanitarian Action at Sheikh Zayed Giving Initiative and participated in medical support projects in several countries and areas such as Sudan, Yemen, Bangladesh, Rohingya, and Zanzibar. She has also served an advisory board member of School of Health Environment Studies, that's at Hamdan bin Mohammed Smart University. She's at the same time holds a master's in ophthalmology and eye surgery, a master's in business administration and management healthcare delivery from Harvard Business School. Powerful lady.
Thank you.
So head of hospital.
I will reply to your question. I will not, because as you noticed in the video, the lady at the end referred the patient to a GP. So she didn't replace the doctor. She replaced an operator, the call center, or maybe she replaced a nurse. But the doctor role was still there because she referred him for a doctor.
But do you agree?
I agree on that chatbot.
No, but the challenge is what? I mean, if the doctor got ready diagnosis or at least got two diagnoses, so
it helped him. It helped him. It's always why we look at technology. And this is something I think we should discuss it. And a little bit I don't agree with it. When we discuss about automation, when we discuss about technology, when we discuss about advancement in healthcare, always we go to the extreme. Does technology will replace the doctor? Will happen maybe or maybe not. But till then, what the technology will help us in improving the quality of the doctor work. So here the technology helped us in saving the doctor time and improving the accuracy, because already, as you said, it gives them differential diagnosis. So it helped a lot in the result of the healthcare treatment and the diagnosis for the patient. I don't know if you'll allow me to talk, but I would like
definitely take your time.
I would like to talk about because I work here in UAE, so I would like to talk about the our experience as a private sector, and I know also government sector here in UAE working the same and better even when it comes to technology. How we look at the role of knowledge in improving healthcare. We look at it for the last few years. The regulators here in Dubai, hand in hand with the private sector, we worked a lot about how to improve the healthcare, how to introduce a lot of technologies and advances in the healthcare, whether when it comes to the diagnosis, as you said, diagnosis, whether it comes to the artificial intelligence in diagnosis. Currently in the hospital, we are working about introducing artificial intelligence in the radiology department, which will help, as we said now, into more accurate, more efficient result, and making the life of our doctors easier and the life of our patients easier. We work also about the treatments. The evidence-based care that will help also our doctors when it comes also to choose the right diagnosis for the right symptoms. Also, there is a system that will help them to choose the best CPT to the ICD codes, which will help them later on also to give proper files and proper diagnosis. We are working, Taban, I know there is, when it comes to treatment, many things currently we are doing it. In the hospital where I work, we introduced robotic pharmacy, which will help also in the treatment. Accuracy, again, giving the best, the right treatment to the right patient at the right time and with the right dose. And again, this is here technology helping in reducing manpower needed and increasing the accuracy of the treatment plan given to the patient. We are working a lot when it comes, as the gentleman introduced to us, it's mobile app, you know. Mobile app, e-health, giving to the patient the access now to their record directly, giving to the doctors also the access to their records, to their patient medical records through mobiles. This all will help really speed and fast conversations between the doctors and the patients. The patient can have direct access through mobile app to the lab, to the x-ray, to his radiology report, to his medical report. So he can discuss with his doctors directly. And also he can, through the mobile app, now we are working about for chronic medication also, giving reminder to the patient about the time when they will take their medication. This is also will increase the compliance of patients. All of it will help will go into better healthcare provided, reduce cost. Because if you are guaranteeing through technology that your patients are taking the right medication, they are committing to the follow-up appointments with their doctors, they are listening to their doctors' advices, that means their recovery will be faster, will be better. That means their possibility to have any complication will be much less.
This is what we see in movies. They correct genes.
Now,
so in future,
artificial intelligence now, not in future, will help you to give even customized treatment plan. Yani last week I was in a meeting with one of the company about also how to introduce more and more of artificial intelligence in the hospital. So now you can, through artificial intelligence, get customized treatment plan. It means that the system itself, through the patient diagnosis, through the patient file, medical records, through the patient family history, and depending on the international studies also, the system can suggest for the doctor the best treatment plan for the patient
So
itself.
is that practice just in Saudi German hospital, or
Now
is
we
it?
are working on it, yes.
No, this is what we say. Now, lacking datas, lacking research centers will. Now, in Saudi German
Yes.
hospital, you've got your customized practice.
Yes.
Will I find that practice in other hospitals as well?
Let me tell you, now actually here in Dubai, the Dubai Health Authority working so hard about these subjects. So you can see for the last 5 years, as you know, we did in the e-prescription, it was mandatory for all private sectors, e-health records and automation submission of bills. For all, it was mandatory for all private sectors and healthcare providers. And now also for the pharmacy and the approval through pharmacy and through DHA. So can the regulator, they can have monitoring for all the pharmacy and prescription all over the healthcare providers in Dubai. Here in Dubai, the regulator is very much involved in the technology. And actually, sometimes, as you said, sometimes for me as a manager, I have to force my doctors. As you said, everyone, sometimes not everyone, but you might see many people who don't like it, who doesn't like a change. So also, our regulator here, they force us. Yani for us as Saudi German, we like a change. We like management, knowledge, innovation, go into new things.
And do you
But
share
other
information?
providers,
Do you share
they don't like
information?
it all go actually to DHA. We don't share it to each other. It all go to DHA, and in DHA they do their statistics, and these statistics to help them also in putting the study and analysis about the healthcare sector in Dubai.
So, okay, man, now do you have anything else to say, doctor?
I don't want to say it all.
Because
but
I will.
later on, I just want to talk about, as a CEO, what the artificial intelligence and the knowledge should help CEOs in management, which is the non-medical
Now,
part.
what I'm
But
going to
this is
do,
later
I'm
on.
going to introduce Dr. Ziad, and then I think I'll open the floor for questions. We'll get some questions from the audience. So, just, Okay, Dr. Ziad Sankari. Ziad completed a BA in computer engineering at the American University in Lebanon, worked at the telecom engineer, and later received a Fulbright scholarship to pursue double masters in electrical engineering and biomedical engineering at the Ohio State University. In 2009, Ziad helped the founding team start a high-tech biomedical venture based in the United States. They won several competitions and awards for the venture, which was late acquired by an industry giant. Ziad conducted research with US and Middle East hospitals and has been a guest speaker at the White House discussing technology innovation in developing countries. Ziad also has a number of quality research articles published in the international peer-reviewed journals. Currently, cardiodiagnostic technology in transforming cardiac care in the United States and other global markets, with patients benefiting from the technology across all 50 states. In 2015, United States President Barack Obama invited Ziad to the White House, where the president recognized his work as innovative and pioneering on the global scene. So I will give Ziad a few moments to speak about himself and to speak about his business as well. Please,
Sure.
Doctor.
So I'm the founder of Cardiodiagnostics. What we do with Cardiodiagnostics is focus on cardiology and heart-related problem. The biggest problem we're facing is that there is a substantial number of patients who have cardiac arrhythmias or irregular heart beatings, and those patients are not being able to get diagnosed easily. So we created a technology that enables long-term monitoring of patients outside of hospitals which reduced the cost of doing that monitoring and provided better access and better convenience for patients for their hearts to be monitored for extended period of time without being in the hospital setting. So the way we do it, we've got a patch that is usually, our products are FDA approved. They monitor the patient around the clock. They detect abnormality in the heart signal known as electrocardiogram or EKG, sends it to a cloud-based system, and then a dedicated monitoring center would do the monitoring and would create a report to make it available for cardiologists. We build artificial intelligence model to automate the process of analyzing the electrocardiogram, which is where I believe AI has a lot of value and a lot of role into it. We also built the first monitoring center servicing the Middle East, and today we're monitoring patients from Turkey throughout the Gulf states all the way to Australia and some European countries from that monitoring center. The US has its own, or North America has its own monitoring center separately. Now, I'd like to put this conversation into context. I strongly believe that AI has a lot of hype to it than what the reality really brings to the table. Think about Siri or Google Assistant or Alexa. Those are all presented to us as artificially intelligent products, which they are, by the way. I'm always impressed. I have a Google Assistant at home that I ask it to turn off the light, turn on the lights, and do very small and specific things. But compare what those can do to a very minimally trained human assistant without even a university degree. I think they don't even compare remotely. And this tells us where we are today with technology. I'm not saying technology will never take over and become much better. I strongly believe it will.
It will.
But where we are today is nothing close to discussing change or letting go of our clinicians or nurses or technicians or doctors. Let go of that. Healthcare is a very deep knowledge-based industry, and you cannot replace it simply with technology, at least not where we are today. However, technology strongly has augmented and improved the way that we deliver care. And I think we've seen it in our space in cardiology, and a lot of other people have seen it in other spaces as well. It made the decision-making easier, just as we say earlier through this demo. I think in our space it has made it possible for a lot more patients to be monitored and to get diagnosed in ways that just 5 or 7 years ago was not possible. Our technology, and other companies are also doing great job at that as well, has enabled better access to care at lower costs and much better convenience. And I think this is where technology and artificial intelligence can be utilized to the maximum. When we started building our artificial intelligence model, our clinicians who work in our monitoring centers, who are typically well-trained CCU nurses, cardiac care unit nurses, they came to us worried about their jobs. They thought that after we build our first functional prototype, we will let them all go. To be honest, that never even crossed my mind. The only thing I thought we could do is, instead of having one clinician being able to monitor 50 or 60 or 70 patients, we will let that same clinician be able to monitor 200 patients, 500 patients, reduce the cost of monitoring, and deliver those cost advantages to the user and to the customer and make their life a lot better. So I second Dr. Reem. I don't think at any point in time we will replace our doctors with AI, not in the foreseeable future.
So all of us are safe then.
Your jobs are in good hands, but I think it will make it a lot easier for physicians to make diagnoses and make decisions based on the knowledge presented and analyzed by artificial intelligence.
So let me put it down in this way. I mean, consider me as being a layperson. So when I go to a doctor or when I get any service, my intention is to get good service. I don't care where the doctor comes from. I don't care about technology. I want you to treat me, treat my condition. So this is what we say. Will technology affect patients' feeling? Will it really give them this kind of faith where they feel they're getting the proper service, they're getting in proper knowledge? I mean, are we using, from the title of this session, are we using proper knowledge to improve healthcare? So this question goes to Dr. Reem, please.
Not yet. We can do better in this. Sometimes technology important, but as you said, if it was not used well and not explained to patient well, it will become on the other advance. The patient will tell you the doctor didn't care about me, he referred me to the machine. So it's important also that the patients are educated well about these machines and about its role and its importance, and the doctors also well trained about using technology. Sometimes you have the doctors are not trained well about it. They use it once or twice and then they drop it out. It's very important for us to the continuity and keep pushing them till they are really comfortable in using it. Then this, when the doctor is comfortable, this feeling will be contagious, will go to the patient himself, and the patient will be comfortable in adding the technology element to that treatment plan.
Okay, let us take some questions from the audience. Please. Please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
It's a real honor to be here in this session. Honorable speakers, my name is Samar Qawuga. I'm a Master's of Pharmacy student in Dubai Pharmacy College, a research assistant, and a pharmacy student representative in Dubai Police. So I have a question for you as healthcare professionals talking about knowledge today. So when we talk about healthcare, we're not just talking about doctors, we talk about pharmacists, nurses, so on. And when we see the knowledge, when we implement knowledge in this healthcare sector, then it will be wonderful if we cooperate. Thing is, as students nowadays, what we're seeing is we're using AI in pharmacy, smart pharmacy. I've been to South German Hospital, it's wonderful, as well in DHA hospitals. But we're not focusing on other aspects in the pharmaceutical field, like clinical pharmacists. Until now, I don't think in Dubai we have this yet, because the role of pharmacists until now is dispensers. So what is your input on that? Will we be seeing this in the future, other than just focusing on artificial intelligence? Because as students, it worries us, because we're graduating with such knowledge in the pharmaceutical field, but we're not able to implement it once we finish our studies. So thank you so much again.
But could you explain the role of clinical pharmacologist, please?
Sure. So as a clinical, the role of a clinical pharmacist is basically looking at the doctor's diagnosis, patient files, and making sure that there is no medication errors occurring, and extra medications added, a missing medication, duplication of therapy. So these all are some things that clinical pharmacists look at, as well as helping the doctor when prescribing the medications.
What is the percentage of error of a clinical pharmacist?
Well, knowing that there's the physician in there, and then there's the clinical pharmacist alongside, then I'm sure it's way less than when we depend on the doctor himself.
Okay, let me go back to people into technology. Can we come up with an app to reduce percentage of error and replace clinical pharmacists?
I mean, we can look into the future, and the old adage, and thank you, it's a great question actually. The old adage from one of the old physicists, I can't remember who it was, Lorenzo maybe, said that, if a butterfly claps its wings in Brazil, then, there's an earthquake in Texas or whatever the thing might be. So we just don't know what's going to happen. That's the reality. I don't think that this will happen in our lifetime, so don't worry too much.
You'll have your job.
But I think, Doctor, you made a good point. It's about how can we reduce that error and that percentage of error, and I think technology can go a long way to reducing that. I think it's before we're a bit away from where we can sort of completely rely upon that, but absolutely, I think you see it in primary care, you see it in hospitals even. I'm sure that errors do happen. It's just it's completely human, and I think if you can use machines to more accurately do a lot of the things that they're sort of good at doing, which is sort of accurate processes that sort of relies less on human intervention, then I think that can only be a good thing.
So what I meant by when I tackled concept of error, because when you reduce error indirectly, you affect the cost. I mean, it's a cost reduction. So the consequences of errors, you really pay a lot of money to correct your errors. So basically, when you concentrate on error reduction, so indirectly, you're reducing lots of cost here. So do you want to add
I want to invite you to the hospital because we have a clinical pharmacist in the hospital.
So you've got a new job.
No,
so if you don't have a job, you've got a new job. Better paid job.
I mentioned earlier, there is now in the artificial intelligence a project called customize the treatment plan. Many of the big IT companies now are also developing this type about customize the treatment plan, meaning the system, depending on the diagnosis and the family history of the patients, and the international studies are also suggesting to the doctor the best treatment plan. It's still under process, but many of the big IT companies are going into that. So but if you want a human being, clinical pharmacist, you are welcome.
So you got the job. Congratulations. We need the second question, please.
Assalamu alaikum. I would like to ask, will technology reduce
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. My name is Ahlam Bagadir from Saudi.
أهلا وسهلا فيك.
I'd like to know if technology is going to reduce the hospital bill. That's question number one for me. I mean, will medication cost be reduced with the time, with the use of technology? And my second question is, I tend to be on the positive side, and I feel that technology can help doctors reach places like where wars are or poverty areas. I think we can advance tremendously there, and I would like to hear your comment on that. Thank you.
Yes. Now, Dr. Ziad, do you want to comment on
sure.
Our lady's question, please?
So look, this is a really good question because it cuts at the core of what healthcare is really about. In my opinion, the most important problem with healthcare is who's going to pay the bill. And this is a problem because the fact that in healthcare you have unaligned incentives. So you and the payer, you as a patient and the payer, you have one incentive. You don't want to get sick, you don't want to pay too much, and you don't want to stay a lot in the hospital. But on the other side, hospitals and the provider system have another incentive. They want to keep you in the hospital, they want to see you more often, keeping the ethical guidelines in check, of course. But nonetheless, I think technology has a role in making things a lot more transparent. In the US, I see a lot of people going to the website, to WebMD and to other online sources to understand better what their problem is. A lot of people discourage it because you might end up diagnosing yourself with cancer while you might have just a simple cold. But the truth is, democratizing knowledge has made a lot of progress and has educated people a lot. So I do see that as one aspect where technology has made people more aware and they better understand what their bill looks like and what they can do with it. Now, I'm not going to comment on drugs. I don't know a lot about that space, but I'm going to comment about diagnostic technology, which is a space I know very well. I've seen a lot of great technologies all over the world that can literally save lives, and they did not make their way to the market because there's no clear path to reimbursement in the US and Europe and other parts of the world. I think who pays the money is a big question mark and remains a big question mark even in the most developed healthcare systems in the world. It will definitely make it a lot cheaper for a lot more people to access healthcare. It will make it a lot more easier and convenient for physicians to make a diagnosis faster and more accurate. And back to your very good comment, more accurate diagnosis means that lower cost of service. But again, we have to address the issue of who's going to pay for that and what are the aligned incentives in healthcare reimbursement.
Now it's Dr. Reem, please.
Role of artificial intelligence, as you said, who will reduce the bill after all? When you have when you talk about artificial intelligence or technology, you always talk about early detection, okay, and preventive medicine and follow-up, proper follow-up. So when you early detect, artificial intelligence now in radiology can help really in early detection of diabetic retinopathy or breast cancer. So if you can detect it before even the doctor is able to detect it, then the treatment will be much less then the cost will be also less. So this is the importance. Technology should focus about the awareness and the early detection and the preventive medicine. This will help you a lot about reducing the cost. On the other side, about the treatment, robotic surgery, if you study about robotic surgery, it's very important in fast recovery and fast rehabilitation to the patient. So if you do knee replacement or prostate surgery through robotic, it's one of the major advantage about robotic surgery is the fast recovery. That means the rehabilitation of the patient staying in the hospital is less, so cost is less. He will return to the work faster. That also he will be productive again and less cost on the government. About the treating patient abroad through it's e-health. E-health is really advanced, but not, I will tell you, e-health not advanced in GCC area because it doesn't need. But you go to India, they have great experience and successful experience about e-health. Why? Because you will have patients who are 3 hours far from the doctors. They cannot. So the only way is a computer and the doctor who is a 3 hours drive. Then they will discuss together and he can help him. So it's working, but again, it will not, patient doesn't like to use it if they don't need to, because it's always this communication, direct communication with your doctor is really important. So when you have access to your doctors, you will go. But when you don't have access in a big, very big countries and like that, you will go to e-health, and it's working successfully in India. You can have a look at this.
Yes, Conor, you want to add something here?
Sure, and if I could just sort of echo what Dr. Rima said, you know, I think the reality around sort of accessing populations globally using artificial intelligence, technology, whatever it might be, I think we're reaching a point where there's no reason why we can't provide the same level of certainly sort of initial diagnostic capabilities, information about healthcare to pretty much everyone globally. You know, there's 10 trillion, you talk about cost, $10 trillion a year spent on healthcare globally, but yet 50% of the world's population don't have access to healthcare. 5 billion people don't have access to basic surgery. So whether you're in Ireland or India or, you know, Dubai or Durban
Africa.
Or Africa. And a direct sort of you know, indication of sort of the direction in which our company is going is that, you know, we launched in Rwanda 18 months ago. We now have 40% of the Rwandan population, with thanks to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation partnering with us to provide effectively virtual care to the population there. And that's something that has an immediately profound impact on accessibility, but also accurate information, education for people who otherwise just don't have access to it. And there's no reason why we can't do that with AI. You know, we've got an app which we can deploy in every single market in the world, and effectively that information, once it's localized, once it's translated, available in every language, which we're doing at the moment, it can be available to, you know, a farmer in rural India. There's no reason why we couldn't do that.
Okay, third question. Okay, please.
Sorry.
So I'm not going to ask then. I'll just allow the audience to ask.
Thank you.
Who's
I've
asking?
got the mic.
Oh my God.
Okay. My name is Dr. Mayada Abu Affan. I'm a director of
Please, you can sit, please. Yeah.
A director of public health and prevention for Health Innovation Advisory, a company, an American company working with the DHA, Dubai Health Authority. My question is about the role of artificial intelligence. Dr. Rim, you touched on the prevention aspect. The role of artificial intelligence in proactive prevention, especially on lifestyle and lifestyle-related diseases, something beyond the wearable and the monitoring technology like the iWatch, something that is going to motivate, give the psychological support, and use the human motivation theories and behavioral change theories to enable, for example, smoking cessation on a population base. Because if you do this on a one-to-one basis, it's going to be really expensive if you want to make a paradigm shift across the population. Thank you.
Please. So No questions then. It's only comment, isn't it? The question 2.
Babylon and Dr. Reem and the
Connor.
hydrologist as
Okay,
well.
Connor.
So in the future,
Sure.
So
And
can you repeat the question again, please?
do you see technology coming in the pipeline where it will support prevention proactively? For example, smoking cessation, to provide a one-to-one smoking cessation advisor on a population basis. For example, UK, the smoking rate is 25%. 25 of 60 million is so many millions. So you cannot provide a one-to-one advisor to the whole those millions. So this is where I see the role of artificial intelligence in terms of support and psychological support, not just giving the information and the...
Yeah, this is what we were talking about initially. Patients need somebody, like a human being to sympathize with the other part.
I agree, and I think it's a great question. And my brief point of view is that I think it's already there. It's already available. We're doing part of that now. So we have, just on the sort of preventative side, and all of our conversation, apart from maybe something that Dr. Rima said, has been around sick care. How can we actually get people better in a more cost-effective way and reach more people? But yet we don't really ever focus on healthcare, which is the sort of preventative side of things. So what we started to do is start assessing people when they're well. So we've developed a chatbot assessment, like a health check, which you answer a series of questions, and it then populates a digital twin of you. So you have your own digital twin, which you then can see your risk of disease. And the idea behind it is that we can really visualize in a really meaningful way for people what their potential for contracting particular diseases are, and visualizing things like, in a really sort of graphic way. So if you take your lungs and you're a smoker, we can sort of show you what that might look like in 20 years' time. And that might be a little bit beyond sort of what we're talking about right now. And I think there's an element of we need to do this. We then need to give that information to the sort of coaches and the people that should be, every professional footballer or every footballer in the world has a coach. There's no reason why people shouldn't have coaches in healthcare. And I think the reality is there needs to be much more of a focus on this. And one thing I would say is that it's not going to be one company that does it. I think there is an ecosystem, and the amazing thing about healthcare is that it's the one industry or one of the industries where collaboration can be incredibly powerful. And I think that's where you sort of need these new innovations coming through, being adopted by public authorities, partnering with other companies, the regulator getting on board to make these things sort of come to fruition and come to market as early as possible.
Okay, so question? Okay, please.
I'll just give a comment.
I would like to...
Okay, I've got our lady, a second lady there. Number 1, 3. Sorry, ladies first. I'm sorry.
My name is Sausan Fikri. I have 2 questions. One to Dr. Reem and the other one to Mr. Connor. Dr. Reem, can you just briefly explain to me or go over what is robotic surgery? I'm not familiar with that. That's question number 1. Question number 2 to Mr. Connor McCarthy. You talked about the virtual healthcare in Rwanda. Could you just briefly touch upon it? How is the interactive phase? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the interaction we have with technology is far less retentive than when we have with humans. If I speak to you human to human, I'm more likely to absorb more information and understand better than to speak to a machine who will give me information. So how does that fit into the context of the healthcare that you deliver in Rwanda? Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Reem, please.
I'll just give comment to the lady before, because I think it's very important subject, and the primary health care is really concerned about it, about the preventive medicine. In artificial intelligence, there is something called predictive medicine, and they can analyze the patients. They can know the similarity and the type of patients. So through artificial intelligence, you can see through the medical record and analyzing the patient who are smoking in their nursing assessment. These smokers okay, then the system can send them awareness message through the mobile app related to their smoking habit, although they were coming for a cough for the doctor, you see? So they were coming for a separate healthcare problem for the doctor. But the system, when analyzing their medical report, they see maybe they are diabetic patients, so there is focused education program for the patient can be done through artificial intelligence. So either if you are diabetic patient, even if you are going to the hospital for something else, the system will catch you as diabetic and will send you a pop-up message and awareness education about the importance of examining your retina every 6 months. Such a program is help in preventive. Robotic surgery, my dear, is a robot that will do that. The doctor will be on a station. The doctors will be managing the robot. The robot is the one who's doing cutting and suturing and doing the surgery itself. So the doctor will be on a station like this, the patient will be here, and the robot doing the surgery. Because of the robot there, it will be much more lesser, the incision is less, the bleeding is less, and the recovery is better. And doctors there are two parts. Doctors who's not trained to do it, so still they don't know too much, but some doctors who are used to it, as I said, technology adaptation sometimes is difficult in the beginning. Doctors who are using to do مثلا urology procedure through robotic, they cannot do without it. They are used to it and they really like it.
Now, one thing to add regarding your question, madam, we've got different robots. Nowadays, the robot is guided by a human being, which is a doctor. So basically what technology is trying to do is trying to steal human being talents. So if you agree. So what happens now, it's a machine and it's a brain. So technology is trying to steal 1,000 brains into one technology where the machine can, it will do you the service without the help of human being. Basically, you steal the brain, you put the brain into the machine, and the machine does the job. Now, this is what, when we go back of percentage of error, when we steal 1,000 brains, super brains, put it into a technology, so percentage of error is much less than what you expect from human being. So even, because what happens, now human being, basically sometimes they get into lots of effects. So when this, for example, they may lose their brain or lose their thoughts in a procedure, but it never happens with machines. So rate of error is much less than human being. So nowadays, I think they're trying to come up with innovations and technology where human being gets out of the field. So you get a specialized cook where the machine does everything. You get special car without a driver. You get special plane with no pilot. You get special surgeon, no human being.
And I think to add to that, the reality is for those sort of, and it's amazing what they're doing with
because human beings get interacted basically.
Exactly, and there's confirmation bias, and there's their emotion comes into play. So if you can take those things out of something as important as surgery and precision surgery, then that can have a really huge impact, I think.
Okay.
Just to touch on the second question, which I think is around sort of, I think engagement through a virtual medium with a doctor or AI and sort of our experience of that. I think the reality is in somewhere like Rwanda, where health education is so minimal and information about particular areas of your health is just non-existent. So you're absolutely right. AI may not be the first thing to introduce there, and which is why we went to Rwanda 2 years ago. And actually what we did was we enabled our clinicians with the AI capability so that, okay, someone's not necessarily going to see a doctor or a nurse in person. They're still connecting with them by phone or, well, in Rwanda it's just phone because they don't really have smartphones, it's just feature phones. But we developed a capability whereby we can enable all of our doctors and our nurses with the AI. So actually the information that they have to hand is much more powerful than they would originally have. And, it's not just doctors and nurses, maybe operators as well, but the point is that they can then use the sort of human interaction to, actually, provide that information to individuals. In time, I think a lot of that will come from once the technology becomes sort of more commonplace in somewhere like Rwanda or other developing countries, people will use it. But I agree, there's a sort of a, maybe, the one thing I would say is about adoption of that sort of technology. In somewhere like Rwanda, they introduced mobile money, so they went straight from checkbooks to mobile money. So they cut out ATM cards, they cut out everything in between. And the adoption of that was incredibly fast. So, once people see that there's a value in it, there's a sort of a threshold. Once you get over that skeptical bit, it will happen, and then it will, exponentially grow like nothing you've seen.
Dr. Sankari, will technology affect the nature of medical research?
Well, absolutely, I think, based on the fact that you just mentioned earlier. What's beautiful about technology, or particularly the machine learning and artificial intelligence space, is that you combine a massive amount of knowledge into one computer software, and you democratize access to that software through the cloud or through the mobile app or other platforms. So you just touched on who's a good surgeon, who's an average surgeon, who's a good doctor, who's an average doctor. Usually there are two differentiators that make a good doctor differentiate himself or herself from an average doctor. It's number one, experience; two, intelligence and intuition. Combined with both, you usually get top-notch doctors. So what we do with artificial intelligence and machine learning is you get a massive amount of knowledge from top surgeons, from top physicians, from top researchers, and you put it into one place, and you build something commonly used in the literature as neural networks. You get a very deep neural network, and you tweak it in certain ways, and you train it on that data, or you use different other machine learning approaches and make that kind of knowledge accessible to a lot more people. So obviously, with democratizing that knowledge and making it accessible, you're making the level of care a lot better, so everyone can have access to the top-notch doctor, not an average or below average doctor, as you might have in not so developed countries usually.
Thank you. Madam, please.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Harim. I'm an educator. My question is about the trust. How I can trust the artificial intelligence with my medical information, that my data in the future will not be misused or abused? Or is this the price I have to pay to have the better access to the healthcare in the underprivileged areas, like you're saying Rwanda and India?
Dr. Ziad, I'll just...
Sure. So when you ask about trust, are you concerned about your patient information, your confidential information, or the outcome? Is it patient information? So this is where governments have a big role to play. In the United States, they have a law that is dedicated to dealing with protected health information or private patient information, known as the HIPAA law. HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So there's just a law that has to be followed and that mandates what companies and service providers have to do in order to protect your health information. I think other countries have to follow through with enabling or legislating new laws that enable those technologies to protect your healthcare information and prevent it from being sold to other payers or other companies or other entities that you do not want them to have access to your protected health information.
This is the law right now for the, but if all my information is with artificial intelligence, and how it cannot be hacked, what is the healthcare doing about cyber security? How to protect my medical...
You sue the machine.
Or the creator of the machine. So, to be honest, this is a complex question, and it goes back again to how you enforce the law and what people are doing to take that law seriously. There are a lot of technologies out there, and there are a lot of companies that are specialized only in protecting, in cybersecurity and protecting health information. So there is a lot that could be done, but that never prevents you 100% from avoiding leaks or problems. There's always a risk of having that that data leaked. But the more you invest into your infrastructure, the more the companies put into their systems, the more likely that this data will remain protected. But don't forget that even your physical data can be breached if somebody accesses those physical papers and steals them or takes them, or they're left during transportation, or they fall during transportation. That's a breach. So the risk is always there. It's about how much you should do to protect it, and that's again a government role to play.
Never, you just always accept changes, because this is nature of life. We have to accept changes. And through research, we can correct lots of things. And through trying, we can correct and avoid lots of mistakes. So the gentleman, as I promised him,
Hello?
Please, yeah, please.
There is another lady.
No, don't worry, you're the one. 2 + 1.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shamsul Arifin Sohel. I'm from Bangladesh. So my first question is to Dr. Reem. I'm really honored to be had connection in the LinkedIn. So I'm really, one of her fan actually. So I heard that a moderator was saying something that she had some activities in Bangladesh.
Through the profile, you had some business in Bangladesh.
No, it's in the charity activities. We go into charity medical camps to the refugees there. We went there.
Camps.
Yeah, Rohingya camps.
That's a big vulnerable position now we are in. So my second question is to other speakers, that Bangladesh now aspiring to change the healthcare system. Already there are some initiatives taken by the government, like one of the biggest burnt hospital now is in Bangladesh now. And towards the e-healthcare system changing, so government is aspiring, the support from the modern world, like the company like Babylon and the other modern technology providers. They are most welcome. So do you have some initiatives taken for Bangladesh? Do you have some plan?
Do you have any plan? He's inviting you. He's inviting you to visit
Thank you
Bangladesh.
very much.
Yes.
To be honest, we have a sort of a clear roadmap on countries. Effectively, we want to be present in every country in the world. Currently, you can download our app in every country and use it. However, if we go and provide a full service that includes doctors, etc., the three aspects of on the earlier slide that I showed you, AI plus virtual health plus physical, we would obviously need to go there, set up, partner with clinics, or set up our own sort of clinical services, etc. So perhaps it's, at one point we will get there. We will launch in Southeast Asia this year or next year in 12 markets. We will launch something with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia next year. We have a big focus on the US. I absolutely agree. I think there are huge opportunities in places like Bangladesh, also Pakistan, where there's a significant need for better quality healthcare, better access to it. I think the governments will play a big role in sort of attracting that into the company if it's not going to be sort of created indigenously. And as Sayed said earlier, the opportunity is there for regulators in every country. It shouldn't be a barrier to sort of, e-health and technology and AI should not be, the regulator shouldn't necessarily be a barrier to the adoption of that. I think it's going to be important for them to embrace that innovation, and the sooner we see that from, governments globally, then I think there's a lot higher chance of companies like us and like Sayed's and like Saudi German Hospital, actually launching in somewhere like Bangladesh.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Late, please. No, we need, because the audience would like to hear the question as well at the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for all this valuable information for all of you. My question is, artificial intelligence so far, I see it as much useful in ordinary diseases. But what about the complicated diseases such as cancer? how technology and artificial intelligence can enhance the treatment of cancer, all kinds of cancer, other than early detective. Because so far, the treatment of cancer is like as if you're saying to the person you're dying, and all the treatments that we have is palliative treatment.
Yeah, palliative treatment.
Yeah, you're dying anyways. So how technology can enhance that? Because most of the people who are diagnosed with cancers are sooner or later are dying. Thank you.
Dr. Reem, do you want to answer that question?
I think we should look at cancer now on this side with more optimistic look, because there is now a lot of successful...
The word itself is really threatening.
Yeah.
So
well,
by
my
if
mother
some
died out of cancer.
That's why you are talking from experience. But currently, and even from our patients, we have the oncology department, we have really success stories in treating cancer, even when it comes to cancer degree 3 or 4. Artificial intelligence, as you said, helping in the early detection, whether breast cancer, whether when it comes to histopathology, also in the lab, early detecting, which by default it will be better.
Dr. Reem, let me summarize her question.
Yeah, I know. But
will technology eradicate cancer? Eradicate it. Complete finish of cancer, like previous diseases and conditions we had.
Cannot, because will eradicate diabetic, also will eradicate blood pressure.
So this is what we mean. Will at some time we hear no more. No more cancer. Can we come up with this? Can we see no cancer in future?
Not. But as they said, there is now many ideas about new treatment modules, genetics, stem cells, many things now, and now becoming a curable disease. Cancer, anyway, it's not becoming non-curable anyway.
Preventive as well? Can I use something that prevents me?
I think if it comes into artificial intelligence with mass detections, plus the genetics, which comes into, now with the genetics study, they are selecting or identifying people who might have the cancer before having it. That's why when you capture such patients before they become patients, here where you eradicate.
But if they get tackled with cancer cells, can I detect with technology? Will I be able to detect the defect in that cell and correct it? In a matter like if you've got an infection, you know that you're infected with such microorganisms. Yes. So you take a proper medication for that microorganism. Yes. So will technology come to a state where it tackles
we hope that, and that depends on as the analysis. So if analysis, because as we said, the analysis through the artificial intelligence, depending on the family history. So as you said, when there is any family history, relative having the cancer, the system itself, because sometimes the doctors will forget to ask you, even if you put it that, or will forget to tell you that you might have a risk. So when the system itself will capture also people who has family history of cancer, who might have even through lab test to genetics test more also can have cancer more than other. The probability is higher. These people later on might have more deep tests or more extensive tests, and then you can eradicate cancer.
So will
I'm afraid to say it, but maybe treat it in the very, very, very early stages.
So will a device treat my skin cancer?
Now, yeah. In dermatology, they are working on that.
Okay.
You are a dermatologist doctor, that's why you want to reach this point, yes.
Any comment from our guest speakers about getting rid of cancer? Please, Dr. Sankari.
It's we're passing into each other because it's a very difficult question to answer. Yeah. I think the reality is, and Dr. Reem has done a very good job of trying to articulate it. I think the reality is we just don't know. There are huge advances being done in genetics and actually how we modify cells, etc., to be able, once we detect it, will we be able to reverse it? There are a lot of questions that we just don't know. There's massive amounts being invested into in medical research, and I would say that AI can assist in that research, and computationally we can start to understand a lot more data in a much quicker time period. So for things that might have taken 100 years to understand, we can now begin to start understanding them in much shorter periods of time. Will that enable us to start reversing that and pick it up before it even manifests itself? I'm not sure.
Okay, so one last question, please, our lady.
Hi, my name is Yasmin, and I'm studying environmental science at New York University. This question is directed at Mr. McCarthy, but anyone can answer. Now, as we know, climate change, pollution, man-made events are either directly or indirectly causing an increase in health problems worldwide, but generally in third world countries. So is Babylon kind of taking this urgency into consideration, considering the fact that human health is generally declining in these parts of the world? Is there a plan for this, and how are you kind of dealing with this resistance against AI? Because a lot of people don't have, they don't really have the option to say, well, I don't feel comfortable talking to a machine, let me see a doctor. A lot of people just, they don't have that problem. So how do you plan to deal with this resistance?
I agree, and I think it's a really good question, and if I can just address it really quickly, I think the challenge is not necessarily about how we sort of get people to start using that information to their advantage and using and once we put it into their hands, we know that people in developing countries and where the need is greatest, they will use it 100%. We're absolutely convinced of that, and we've seen it in Rwanda. We're seeing it in other countries that we're now going to launch in East Africa, for instance. I think there's a huge need in, as I said earlier, half of the world's population don't have access to basic healthcare. So that will get worse unless we do something drastic right now. I think that's where you have organizations like the Gates Foundation who are enabling us to deliver healthcare in developing countries. If you sort of couple that with the ability of, say, a huge telco or a telecoms company to then distribute sort of some sort of technology to masses and populations of people, it's where collaboration in an ecosystem can have its greatest effect is in developing countries and in countries where that need is greatest. It is absolutely on our roadmap, and we continue to try and deliver that to those countries as quickly as possible. And I think, I don't know if...
So, yeah, basically to finalize, because I think time is up. So, utilizing knowledge to improve healthcare, I need one recommendation from each guest, please. Dr. Sankari. I need a final recommendation, one recommendation.
I recommend that we believe in technology and embrace the change and be positive. I strongly believe that technology will make our world much better. And one thing that proves this point right, go online and look up life expectancy over the past 50 years in your home country or any average country around the world. You'll see how, due to technology, people are living longer and longer.
Dr. Reem, please.
Using technology to help us medically, help in awareness, in education, in early detection, in treatment, and help us also use technology and help us in the management part of the medical field, in about budgeting, in about making the right decision, and about fixed asset utilization, inventory management, using technology in the full cycle of healthcare services, from calling the patient till making the decision by the CEO, using it in a proper way. It's really a good way for us for the future and building a healthy healthcare sector.
Mr. McCarthy?
One thing I would sort of just like to finish on is, if you and I, doctor, have the same access to a library of books, does that make us as knowledgeable as each other? And I think the answer is no. It's how we use, it's how first of all we interpret that library, that information, and then how we use it and intelligently use it in a way that we can fundamentally change the way that we're delivering things like diagnostic capabilities, or increasingly going into secondary care and improving surgeries. But fundamentally we need to be using that knowledge, sharing it, and then intelligently disseminating that across the globe.
So in conclusion, life is really changing. Please accept those changes And without knowledge, we cannot improve healthcare. Thank you very much.